So we've talked about all of the different things that show up on a web page, and in this video we're going to talk about how does the browser, how does your computer know what to place where and how to arrange it and how to organize everything. So let's jump right on into it. The first thing we want to talk about is this concept of flow. Flow refers to how the web browser renders or displays all of the elements from the HTML file. So does it put everything in just a giant line that runs all the way across the screen? Or does it put them in a giant line that runs vertically down the screen? Does it put multiple things on a single line, etc., etc.? If we want to adjust that flow, there's a default flow that's generally left to right, top to bottom, whatever's in your HTML file. But if we want to adjust it, we can use CSS properties. So if we have a given element, we can set its position to set where it should be where that block should display. And I'm going to list the options here. You'll learn more about them as you work through your exercises. So options that you have are relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. And again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over what those are. You'll see them in the exercise. If you have questions as you're working through the exercises, please ask. Next, we have Z-display. Sorry, not Z-display, Z-index. And that sets the layering of elements. So you can think about the Z-axis, if you're familiar with that from math, the Z-axis being into and out of the screen. And so the higher the number, the more kind of on top of it will be. So if you've got it something with a Z-index of 1, it will cover up something in the same position that has a Z-index of 0. So if you think about stacking papers or like layering papers on top of your computer screen, the more layers away from your screen it is or out of your screen, that's the higher Z-index. Next, we've got display. And this kind of affects or determines what's going to show up on the same line as whatever box you're defining this for. Your options here are inline, block, and inline dash block. And there's, much like position, there are specific details here that explain why they're different and how they work. But I just want to give the basic idea so that you kind of have these seeds, and if you see inline, you see block, or you see inline block, you know that's just a saying. That's just determining what is going to show up on the same line, what's going to move to a different line. And then lastly, float helps determine the horizontal position. That's not technically what it's there for, but it's good enough for our purposes that that's how I'm going to introduce it here. This is how you can kind of adjust and say how you want things to show up on the web page, is by using a lot of these properties to adjust where those things are displayed.